You're listening to the 212 Roundtable Podcast. You can find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, and Google Podcasts, as well as Apple Podcasts. Be sure to leave a review and subscribe. You can also find the Brew Club at 212.beer. That's the number 2, the word 12.beer. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching 212 Brew Club. Now on to the show.
We're back with a new episode of the 212 podcast. I am no longer on vacation.
You're back. You're off of. Well, you're not off.
I'm never off dad duty. I'm always on dad duty, but I got to break away so we can kind of come here live to Fischman Public House and Bottle Shop, and we're talking to
northwest side of Chicago.
Exactly. We're talking to Gus Cariamaniolis.
How do you pronounce your last name, Gus?
I still can't say it.
Who are you guys?
Why are you in my shop?
Why is there a microphone here?
Who are you guys?
And thanks for listening.
We got chased out by the cops. But yeah, we're here at Fischman's. Brandon, why don't you start off with some lines of questions here?
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is kind of, craft beer has been a part of me for several years, and I kind of got really into it when
You can eat your grapes. You don't have to.
when I met Shanna, and I think I've told this story partly before.
Yeah,
one of the podcasts is working at the Bears games. I met Shanna, and
Fischman's has been mentioned as much as Goose Island has been mentioned.
Yeah, pretty much every podcast.
Oh wow, really?
Goose Island and Fischman, you guys are in the. Actually, I should do a running count to see who gets mentioned more.
Yeah.
You guys are Goose Island, and whoever gets mentioned the most, you guys can sponsor us.
Yeah. So what was funny?
Goose Island.
Yeah. So a lot of the time, like sitting at the Bears games, and Shanna kept telling me to come to this bar. And she's like, "Oh, come to our bar." I'm like, "Where's it at?" She's like, "At Lawrence in Milwaukee." I'm like, "That fucking old man bar?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She's like, "Yeah, come. It's different now. I swear." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." And then I showed up, and it was awesome. Like there was bars in like Lincoln Square and stuff like that had like some kind of craft beer, but you guys, when I say you guys, I'm talking to Gus. Kind of like
Not me.
Elevated it, especially for this neighborhood, because this place was a dry hole for craft beer. There was nothing.
Are you talking about where?
Old Fish.
The old Fischman's.
Yeah.
Well, even now, it's still the tap list here is by far and away better than anything in the area because they've got so many handles.
There's nothing nearby that I think is. When I say nearby, in our neighborhood, I mean that's where we're at. I don't know of any place that's like this here. I'm not tooting your horn here to be like, hey, yeah, we're here, you're in place. But seriously, you guys have...
the way we keep the list fresh and rotating and interesting, I don't know if anyone does it better than us, really.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that.
So, and kind of talking back like to the old location, the history's been kind of beaten to death. We've talked about that. It's been in articles and stuff like that. I've written articles about it in the past. But I don't know if I've ever really asked you, like, what was your thought of when you decided that you were starting to take over the business? Like, why did you feel like craft beer needed to be at that bar in this neighborhood at that time?
So, when I first came to Fischman's in '96, I walked into a morgue almost in that time. It was a lot of older people, like grandparents' age would say, old man bar, beer and shot. And eventually those guys started fading away. You can't, how do you replace a old couch, throw it out and get a new couch? So my theory was like, how are we going to change this old place bar into something that's going to be fun and hip or different, So I was already selling craft beer in the store. I like when Goose Island started.
It's 2 Goose Islands now. We got this podcast.
Same thing with Three Floyds and those guys, and it didn't really sell too much, but so I was like, we're gonna start, putting it in the barn around draft and see what happens, So as time was going, it started growing, and the word started getting out, and some of the locals were coming in, getting new customers coming in, and word of mouth coming in before social media took off and stuff like that. And I started seeing younger people, because like I said, the the old guys were there for many years, but now they're dying out, and you can't replace an old guy with another old guy because that other old guy belonged to another bar, and he ain't leaving that bar, coming to my bar.
Never really thought of it that way.
Yeah, so
That's true.
Yeah.
you had to get younger, so that was the goal, and survive. That's why you see so many local, small corner bars dying out, because their regular base customer died out, and they couldn't replace it with a younger clientele.
Yeah, that is funny. I do love the old. When I first went to Fischman's, it was. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. When did you say that you guys? When you took over ownership?
Well, and I started there in '96.
96.
Started doing the craft beer thing around 2000, maybe.
Okay.
But I still carried Goose Island, and when they first came out, Three Floyds. I remember meeting Nick Floyd coming into my shop, telling me about his stuff, and wondering, what do you mean gumball head? Is there gum in this stuff or what?
I think that's the first thing I thought of when I heard of gumball head. It was like it's gonna taste like gum,
Yeah.
and it didn't taste like gum.
Well, the first
it was
time
good, but it didn't
I
taste like
remember walking. Well, because growing up in the neighborhood and growing up with Stephanie, Fanny. One time, she and I believe Troy. I don't think they were married yet. Her brother. We walked over to Fischman's, and I was just thrilled that you guys had Hacker Shore. I think on draft, and I'm like, this rules, because it was my favorite beers. It was one of the beers that my best friend introduced me to a long time ago, and I had and this was probably. I don't remember. 2002 maybe when I tried it, and I had 2 of them, and I was wrecked. I'm like, oh my god, this beer is amazing, because I had nothing like it before. So that was my first experience with going to Fischman. I loved it. I was like, man, look at this place, this old man bar. All the windows are open. This is great. They got the digital jukebox on the wall. Fantastic.
Well, going back to the Hacker Shore thing was that was my favorite beer. So when Shanna met me, you'd come to my condo, and I would have a fridge full.
Fucking freezer, God.
A fridge full of big bottles, and we'd be me and my buddies, we'd be drinking them, and with the lemons, and it was great.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and it was funny because this is going back in 2000, before 2000, 99, whatever, 97. I'd be going to different bars to seek out Weiss beers.
Yeah.
Who has the best Weiss beers in the city? A little place, Matchbox. They had an awesome selection. It was one of my favorite places too.
Awesome.
But then I was like, that's why it was on draft, because that was my beer.
I was drinking your beer. Yeah. Perfect.
So I was like, I can't drink any of these Weiss beers. It's blowing my stomach out.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened to me with the whole Hacker Shore thing.
Well, it's funny because I think the thing about Hacker Shore, funnily enough, is
I like that word.
So I lived in Lincoln Square, growing up, and then walked down Giddings, get to Giddings Plaza, and they had the Chicago Brauhaus. They have Hooten Bar, that kind of stuff. So I'd go to Hooten Bar, Hacker Shore. It was Hacker Shore and Julius Ector were the 2 beers. Before I even drank craft beer, I'm like, these beers are amazing, and I would sit there and double fist those, and
going to town,
and then not remember a week, whatever. But it was awesome then, and then I remember I talked about this too. I think the first craft beer I had, I was at some random bar on Armitage, and somebody gave me I think it was a blackout stout.
Oh, cool.
And I had a pour of that.
Yeah. You talked about that.
And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Oh.
And then it just kind of took off from there. And then the whole thing with running into Shanna and talking about that and coming into Fischman's. The one thing I remember that I was so pissed off about when I came into Fischman's the first time, I remember looking at the floor when I walked in at the wall, and I was like, there was an outline there. And Shanna came in, and I was like, Shanna? It's like, was there a phone booth right here? She's like, yeah, we just took it out a couple weeks ago. I was like, what? I was like, oh my god. I was like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Superman booth?
Yeah, and then did you guys donate to the gift?
Yeah.
I think she said,
yeah. So that was, Superman booth used to be considered the bookie booth. So when I came in '96,
that's awesome.
When I walked in '96, it was coming from a nightclub that my father owned and working in there. Open to 4 a.m. and then come into this place, and we were open at 7 a.m. So it was a change of life, But
waking up when
walking in there, I was like, "What's going on?" Felt like a party at 7 a.m. We got bartender George, who was the bookie, taking bets. I mean, and then you had the phones ringing, the bets are coming in. These guys bet on everything. They bet on the Price is Right, the contestants, the Wheel of Fortune.
God.
It's just insane. Wheel of
I feel like we missed a
Fortune,
huge
Jeopardy.
opportunity.
Seriously.
Yeah, so it was just crazy. And then, even though it was like 96, it felt like I walked in 1945 or so, because all you heard in music playing was Glenn Miller Band, and it was funny because at 7 a.m. it was packed, and you got these guys with beers and shots, and and it was a different change, but I was like, what the hell's going on here? Who gets up at 7 a.m. and drink?
These cool guys is what it sounds
These cool
like.
old guys, man. And
We're retired. We got nothing else. We're gonna spend our money and drink our beer.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing I heard about, like, the bars that were open at 7 a.m., stuff like that, was a lot of those, most of them were filled with cops and firemen from shift change. And then those guys retired, and then their thing was they went to a bar at 7 a.m., so they continued to go to bars at 7 a.m.
I never
because
thought
that's
about
where their
that.
friends were.
Well,
that makes sense.
You had like the four groups of people, the flaps firemen, you had your third shift workers that were manufacturing, and then, that died out, and then you had your retirees who had nothing to do, and then you had the people who were out all night till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and they needed to find, so they snoozed in their car for 2 hours until they got that 7 o'clock bar. You know what I mean? So
Those are called alcoholics.
So
No offense to anybody listening who does that. I don't think you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do. Live your life. Drive safely.
But it was a different time. It was fun. Lively in that way. But, on Tuesdays you had the bookie. You had the other guy who the bookie collected for, and they had to make the payments. And, it was an operation that was totally that we had nothing to do with. But
It just happened.
it just happened. It was like we bought the place, and some guy walked to my father and he goes, George over there, the bartender, he stays. Okay.
That is awesome. And terrifying. Hey, nice to meet you. I heard you just bought this place. That's George. He stays.
Yeah.
No one's going to question that if someone says that.
Yeah,
Jesus,
right.
That's great.
Yeah. So I just recently saw the guy at Jewel that used to come every Tuesday to collect the money. I was like, George has died, but this guy's still alive. I'm like, this guy's like 100 right now.
I'll never die.
So now what do you do if he walks in the door and he's like, this is the new George?
That's hilarious.
Make sure the Price is Right is on that TV every day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but Fischman was a gambling hall, personally, in my opinion.
Oh, that's
But
funny.
I feel like, I mean, not to say that it was normal, but I feel like a lot of those like seedy older bars kind of had that,
Sure.
Because then I know, like, didn't your dad had another place at like Belmont and Pulaski or something like that too? Like, I've been past that place, and that's the only thing I can think of is like seedy underbelly bar or like gambling happens and like,
Oh, yeah. And even that place, he's 45 years he's on that place.
Wow.
So that's and still you're like Chicago style corner bar with a little bit of package to go. You go in and you get, remember when you had the big schooners?
Yeah.
Like, we had, they still do the schooners, so,
That's awesome.
And the Polish people love to put that cherry juice, into their beer. Which was really weird.
Yeah, that sounds really weird.
Yeah. But
If someone's trying to break into the bottle
Yeah,
shop.
it's
while
Max.
we're recording.
Max can go away.
Well, yeah,
Max.
going back to the craft beer, yeah, we needed to bring life to a bar, and why not Northside Chicago? I mean, you had Hopleaf at the west, local option down, Hopleaf to the east, sorry. You had your local option down over there, and you had Maria's in the south, and it was just map room, and it was just big gap, So
Well, so
Yeah, there wasn't anything over here.
yeah,
No.
and it was around 2011 that like Shanna popped up at the Cubs games and Bears games, started telling me about
Your Chicago team's great, man.
started telling me about like the bar and stuff like that. So, but like I think around that time too, like while I was into craft beer, I wasn't like a fanatic, but I don't remember Maria's even being that big at the time, But I feel like
What Maria's are you talking about?
Southside.
Southside,
okay.
yeah. Not the pizza place.
Thanks. I was like, Maria's Pizza was a craft beer place? Where did I miss out? I love their pizza.
No, they got great pizza.
No, they're
They
sponsored.
don't really have craft
It's
beer.
like walking into like 1954 porno scene or something.
That's all I'm going to keep doing. That's all
Yeah.
Welcome to my bar. It's a Chicago bar.
Yeah, like I don't remember Maria's being that big, but I feel like around that time is when craft beer started kind of like pushing out, and then like you
like
guys,
birth, like baby birth pushing
no,
out?
like pushing out to like
Oh.
the masses, and
Yeah.
like more people were like, there was like, I don't want to, kind of going back to the seedy underbelly. They weren't seedy, but there was just like this small like, niche of people that
Yeah.
liked it, and then it just started exploding. And like people that I know, people that were, and I was a Miller Lite guy or whatever, drinking all that other crap. It was like 2011, 2012, and then I remember first coming to the bar, talking to you guys, and then like it was literally. I was coming in for like 2 months, and then that's when you guys did the first Tap This.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, the Tap This, that was something that also drew me in to Fischman's. And Brandon and I had lost touch for a little bit when we went to high school. And then, I don't know how did we cross paths at Fischman's?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was working there. And he and I were like, oh, shit, what's up?
Yeah.
And the first beer, it was it was a Saturday. It was like, I remember this, because it was a Saturday, because helping my aunt at Lobster Graham. I was helping her do some stuff there when she was working there, or at that location. Mike came to pick me up. We went to Fischman's, and you said you should try this beer, and it was Lagunitas Brown Sugar. That was the first time I ever had it, and I was like, this is amazing. And it's kind of, it was still, all these beers were still very new to me. I came in very, very late to how all this happened, as far as craft beer is concerned. Yeah, someone walked in and they looked very confused, like, why are you telling me to leave? Why are you telling me to leave?
what is this?
Huh? Something serious? Something serious?
But our first Tap This was, you remember the first two beers?
Avery Maharaja?
No.
No, or was that the second one? Avery was one of them, though.
As you say that, I'm looking at the Avery
It was
beers that are
actually,
behind your head.
remember it was that collaboration, 3 Floyd McKellar. bootleg?
Yes.
And I think it was Founders, was All Day IPA was just coming out.
Oh, wow.
That time, yeah. We just did 2 beers.
That was the Tap This?
Yeah, that was the first one. Then
Wow.
and I think the next one was Avery Maharaja.
Yeah, I remember that was like maybe that was the first one, like, because I think you did that one, and then like Shanna asked if I could help out. Because the first Tap This they did, like Shanna was like, there was a ton of people there.
Yeah.
And I remember Shanna coming up to me. She goes, I keep asking all these people, like, oh, how'd you hear about us? And they're like, oh, B-Dub. And it was like when every block was around, and I was
Yeah.
like posting stuff onto there. I was like, go check this out. It's going to be awesome. It's like Old Man Bar. It's coming new. Like,
We
whatever.
did Reddit.
And, yeah. And like, oh, yeah, I used to do Reddit all the time, too. And then,
Oh, yeah, you were on there.
so Shanna was like, oh, it's like everyone's here. Like, so can you do this for the next one? So like I did it. But yeah, the Avery Maharaja one is what I remember. But the first one, like I was blown away too. Like I remember showing up and I was like, holy crap, there's a ton of people here. And it was 2 beers.
Yeah, 2
and then
beers.
like then it started getting to the point where it was like literally almost every tap handle you had was something different.
Yeah.
And it just kept growing from there and got more and more amazing.
Yeah, it was growing.
A couple of them landed around my birthday, so I would plan my Thursday birthday, like depending on where my birthday was, I would plan that was my going out, which
Yeah.
was a Tap This, and it was always, I think I told Shanna that too, when coming here for my birthday,
Yeah.
it's pastime. I was like, yeah, that was my tradition to go to Fischman, so while you guys were in limbo between the 2 shops, I was like, what am I going to do for my birthday? I went to Old Irving. Thanks a lot, guys.
It's all right.
I ended up with that.
Nothing
That was
like
good.
Tap This.
Yeah.
And that was the amazing thing about Tap This was like it was fairly consistent that it was done every other week.
Is that what it was? It was
Yeah,
every other
it
week?
was every other week. There was
Yes,
a Tap
every
This.
2 weeks.
Yeah, every 2
And it
weeks.
was
Oh, man.
very consistent. Like I
And the
think
Tap
there
List
was
was crazy.
Yeah,
every time.
maybe
Like,
one-
I'm talking about when
Lots.
I went. There was so
But
many.
still was lots of
and
work.
like maybe
I believe
it was like,
Like,
once or twice, maybe a couple more, but like it was like if it landed on a holiday, like it didn't happen.
Right.
But then like you'd make up for it on the 3rd week, and then the schedule would just skip to every other week again.
Speaking of
But
which,
it's like-
when's the next one?
Well,
How's that for putting you on the spot?
Yeah, but, you can put me on the spot.
Cool.
It's just
You just
trying to
did.
get people excited about beer again because there's just so much beer.
Pumping up.
Yeah.
Pumping it up. I'm raising the roof. No one can see it.
If we just to say like we thought I'd said this before. 5 years ago, closing it about 5-6 years ago. I remember doing the Tap This featuring founders and their beers. And of course we had KBS going on draft, and we had 6-7 food trucks out in front. We had close to 400 people show up for that event. How many people got a pour to how many people were there, and people realized, oh, who cares? There's a party going on. People in the parking lot, people in front. It was a great time. If I ran that same Tap This event today, will there be even 50 people showing up?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, what is it going to do to get people excited? Like, what's on draft to people and to bring them out?
Right.
Well, and kind of to your point, you kind of said earlier, I think before we were recording though, it's like if you do that and you put something special on tap that like people seek out, how many people are you going to get in here that have never been here before?
Oh, yeah.
And it's twofold. One, it's like it's annoying because these people don't patronize your business. They've never been here. They're just coming because you've got this on tap. But at the same time, you may be introducing them to all the other stuff that you have on tap, all the stuff you have in the bottle shop, so that maybe, okay, we've gained a few more customers this way. But at the same time, I feel like when that corner that you guys were at before, I mean, restaurant-wise, it was like a black hole. So the food trucks were perfect right there. So not only would you get people coming in for beer, but you would get families, tons of families with strollers coming through. Mom stands outside with a stroller, dad's running in and grabbing a beer real quick, and and then dad comes outside.
I saw plenty of moms running in.
Well, I'm saying, and then dad comes out and mom runs in and grabs a beer, and it's like they have their beer, they grab their food from the food truck, and then they go. Like, that was awesome, and it's like here there's actually more options. You've got community right down the street. Obviously we have this
front room.
Yeah, front room. Like there's
food here. I've not been to front room yet.
So,
but the thing is with the food trucks, I mean, even towards the end, when we with closing and the way we did Tap This, it's getting harder to get those food trucks to participate. And
that's what I was going to say.
And it was like the war of food trucks and the inconsistency of them being there. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna be there. You're expecting them, and all of a sudden they're not showing up. Something else came up, and it's like, well, it became inconsistent, you know.
Yeah, I remember so many times, like, we'd have a food truck scheduled for the Tap This, and then Shanna would call me and be like, they ran out at lunch with everything that they were supposed to have because they did service downtown. Like, most of them were going to, like, the Groupon building at 600 in Chicago. Like, oh, they're out. And they don't have time to get and prep more stuff. Like, she's like, do you know anybody else? And I'm like on Twitter, like trying to get food trucks. And like now, like I think about it, I'm like, I don't even know where to find a food truck. Like,
I know of one, and he'll be on the podcast in the future.
Oh yeah, he's got a buddy that runs a food truck.
Fried rice balls aren't genius.
But it's to keep that Tap This, what we were featuring, food trucks, beer, music and stuff. But like we just couldn't keep up with, and like you said, the food truck business at first was gangbusters. Everybody, like wanted, and then Chicago laws got strict, and then things started fading away. I don't even know how many food trucks exist now in Chicago.
I'm not sure either. I think if any of them, they just kind of focused to being downtown, maybe, right?
And special and private events and caterings and stuff like that. But like, it was a fun time. I mean, a lot of this fun stuff with the Tap This stuff. Like especially when we did the local Tap This. I mean,
those are.
I mean,
those
and
are
even
awesome.
we did our last local Tap This here. It was a good turnout. And with that, like, how many breweries in Chicago? The first place to ever have their beer on draft was at Fischman's. Featuring it like a lot of the local events. And in the one that happened in like January, February. Remember that one? We were packed. Beyond max. It was crazy packed. Spiteful's first beer was on draft. I think 18th Street's one first beers, a flask. I mean, it was just tons of it. I mean, we had 20 handles at that time, and I think all 20 handles were all local beers. And then on top of it, we tapped out of we ran out of beer. I think 18 kegs popped out of the 20 that night.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, people were climbing on top of each other. We had to open the doors in the middle of winter and the heat off. Because
there's so many people in there.
So many people. It was hot in there, and the windows were steaming.
Yeah, literally everything was fogged up. I remember opening the back door, trying to let air in. Like, all right, now open the front door to get a draft, and like, it was still like stifling in there. But but that was awesome because there's like I remember like. People still post those pictures on Facebook and share those photos. And I remember because that was the time I was taking all those photos. I'm like, but like all these brewers are like crammed into the corner, like trying to get up, and there's like, you see the heads of all these other people that just couldn't get out of the shot, and I'm like, that was an awesome night.
Yeah, I have very fond. I don't think I have a bad memory of being over at the old spot, and actually. I think maybe I told you this, Gus, a while back, but many, many years ago, because my family is all from the area, my grandfather actually worked at Fischman's stocking beer. And my mom said, don't ever tell them, but, your grandfather was fired for stealing beer. And I was like, why am I not going to tell that? That's hilarious. I don't know how long ago. I mean, it was obviously before you.
Yeah, it was probably before us, of course.
But yeah, I always think that it's a funny thing how it is in my family, and it still is at this point. Fischman's still in my family.
Yeah.
Grandpa's a booth, Steve.
I'm going to call a break real quick because it looks like we're at that point. So we're going to take a break, then we're going to come right back, and then we can talk about the new Fischman, where we're at now.
Yeah, so as Tony said, or I said, or maybe blend them together, make it a song. We're back. So we're finishing up the second half of the podcast. We are with Gus from Fischman Public House and Bottle Shop. It's still hard for me to not say Fischman Liquors because that just flows off.
I just say Fischman's all the time.
Even if there's no S in it.
I know. I don't make it singular. It's Fischman's.
Well, I think we all called. I mean, I remember like Shanna calling it Fischman's and stuff like that, and then there was like a revelation where we were like, no, it's actually Fischman, and then we're like, okay,
not me, Fischman's. Sorry, you're on my show.
Yeah,
I'll call you what I want.
I'm going to Fischman House, or I'm going to Fischman's house, or Fischman's bar, whatever.
No. Going to the
Fischman Liquors was
Fischman Liquors. That makes sense.
But like before, it was like Fischman's and Sons and Liquors.
Oh, jeez, what a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was awesome too. I remember
the old sign.
Well, yeah, I do. Well, that was gone before I came, but I remember the pictures. And you guys had gotten rid of that a little bit before I got there. And didn't somebody from like Ohio buy that sign?
No, we took down that sign, and once we took that down, there was probably no way we're getting that thing back up there. But the city wouldn't allow us to bring it back up.
Yeah,
really? Just because once it goes down, I mean, it's a classic sign. I mean, it's cool and all.
Yeah.
But some guy was just driving by from Iowa. A trailer just looking for stuff, and he's like, "What are you gonna do with that sign?" I'm like, "You can have it."
I would be somewhere in Iowa. Sign.
Maybe that's our goal: is to find the guy in Iowa, and we go to Iowa.
We talk to him and say,
No, but I'd be interested to see what happened to that. Because, and I think the ordinance the ordinance now is typically you can't have signs that overhang like a certain amount.
12 feet across, yeah.
Because if you look at like the patio theater, like theirs goes, if they ever took that down, they probably couldn't put it back up. And that's why they're just letting it fall to crap. And it's like, literally looks like it's going to fall on somebody or a car.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Right in my neighborhood.
Yay!
Terrifying. Yeah. So you said you had I was saying let's go to the future, and you said you had a question.
So I can I can tie the question in a little bit, but so let's kind of start it off. So I remember the closing party at actually there's two things: the 20th anniversary party, which was awesome.
That was awesome. Yes.
And then it was literally shortly after that the decision was made to close the location.
Boo! That's where we're throwing like the booing noise, like a booing track. Boo!
Yeah. I hope you do that because you say it all the time.
I did it. I did the applause track on the one we said we were going to do, the Bourbon
sweet.
County one. Yeah, I did it. Do you listen to our episodes?
No.
Good.
Neither do you.
Yeah.
So, 20th anniversary party was
20th
awesome.
Anniversary was awesome.
And then it was like a month after that the decision came to close the location.
Not even a month.
Yeah, not
2
even
weeks.
Yeah. Well, it was 2 weeks. I think the decision came, and then I think we posted it like
May 3rd.
Yeah, May 3rd.
May 2nd. Sorry.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Well, it came up in my memories a while ago because I wrote the closing article. I was like, and I remember writing it because I was somewhere. I forget where I was. Traveling for my full-time job, and I remember Shanna calling me. She was like, "Hey, you kind of, helped us and like did a lot of stuff and writing articles like to kind of get us here. can you write an article to close us out? And I was like in tears, like, no. I bought some craft beer and I was sitting at a bar, probably in like Texas or something like that. I was like, no. But it was sad, man. And like,
Yeah, it was.
And I think it was more the emotion came more because like I love you and Shanna, like I love you guys, and like seeing that location was going to close was like terrible. And it was more like, what are you guys going to do now? Like, this has been your life. I'm tearing up a bit.
Yeah.
But it's like, this has been your life. What are you going to, and this has been like a part of the community and like people love this. Like, where are people going to go now?
Yeah.
And
That's how I felt too. I was like, geez, this is
I didn't know where I was going. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a shocker when that was all happening. It sucked. I mean, I'm saying that as a consumer. I'm sure it sucked for you too.
Oh yeah. When we to come up to that decision and tell our staff and then coordinate with the public and letting them know what was going on was probably one of the hardest decisions.
Yeah.
But we needed to make that decision because that time you're going to be basically on track to eventually just fail. You know?
And nobody wants that.
Yeah, nobody wants it. So that it's just as heartbreaking because we just celebrated being 20 years there, operating at that place, and then it was like, here comes this bad news to follow up. So
Congratulations on 20 now. Get the hell out of
yeah,
here.
right, yeah. So yeah, I mean, and I was fortunate enough that even my uncle let me stay there because my lease technically ended April 30th, and to negotiate to be at least stay there for 3 months so I can get out, so because technically by law your lease ends, they can start.
You're supposed to be out of there. Yeah.
So
it's not like anything's going on in there now. So.
No. Except the paper's falling off the windows now. You can actually see in there. It still looks like what I left it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I noticed that it was that there's nothing has actually happened there.
No,
It's just people walking in whenever they want.
So, well,
and it was funny because like every May you get the friendly reminders on Facebook about what happened 3 years ago, and honestly the May 3rd date is it had a post and it just brought it back. It was the next day, like waking up actually May 3rd after May 2nd, pretty hungover because everybody came by and showed support to us over there, and we had like a big party. But was like, how do I go to work now? I mean, after
knowing
3
that
months, hard.
This is it. Yeah.
Like this is it. But we tried to make the best of it. As we went there. All the way till the last day, and then having a final speech at closing to the public. I think that was like July 14th or something like that.
Around there.
Yeah, and then having our friends and family closing party, and that was a blast.
Which there was another speech there too.
Yeah, another speech. It was really long, and it was great. Still rubbing it in Wojo's face. It made him cry like a baby that day.
So, well, and here's an interesting question too. So, like, we had there was and I don't want to say we because but you had the 20th anniversary party. What was the, you're having a party to celebrate the 20 years there. Did you know at that time that the location was going to close, or did you have hope that something would be worked out?
We had hope. We knew that the lease was coming to an end, and we were going back and forth on negotiations and trying to get this thing to come down, and it just got to the point where we were just like, we're done. Yeah. We're just going to cut it off, and we're just going to settle this way. And that was hard.
Yeah.
Fucking cooler.
So the location closes. I mean, I remember that day.
I made time to come to the Tapped Out event, and I remember because I had to drive to Aurora because we had family. My cousin Jazz was graduating. She had graduated high school, and I was like, I can't. I was actually drove back from Michigan and had to go to Aurora. I told Laura, I was like, I gotta stop at Fischman's. It's the last thing. So I think Mike met me there, and we stopped in and had a couple beers. If I'm not mistaken, maybe Mike's mom drove us down there because we had a couple beers and we knew we weren't going to be able to drive to Aurora.
Yeah.
Would you like to hop on, Mike? You can be here with us. Okay. Just,
Hi.
So you can say hi. Let's try that again.
Hi, guys.
Tell them who you are.
I'm
And what?
And
How do you?
What do you do here?
How do you pertain pertain to this?
I'm the other half of Fischman's.
Yes, you are.
The better half.
It's Fischman, okay? There's no S.
Oh, Fischman.
We just discussed that. I call it Fischman's. It is called Fischman.
Well, we technically have two Fischmans. Now we've got the bottle shop and the public house.
Oh, so I can call it Fischman's.
No, it still says Fischman bottle
Give
shop.
a shit, Gus.
We're gonna have to cut his mic off.
Not at all.
So it was like we didn't know. We, wanted once we knew when was it, like a couple days before the May thing, the end it was to get there. So that was heartbreaking to let everybody know. It was like watching the last episode of Cheers, I guess.
It's a good comparison.
Yeah, it was like everybody was sad and depressed.
Making the announcement that we were closing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cry, the crying, leading up to that, after we, closed all the way up to the time we closed, everybody crying like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? It's like you broke up a community.
Yeah.
And then you have to rebuild now with the new place.
Yeah. What shocks me too is that that you guys are here now. That there's still people that went to the old place that don't know that this one is here.
It just happened.
I was on.
Yeah, we had a couple guys who were like, yeah, we were at the old place standing there. Like, did you notice that there's paper on the windows? And
are they? No, it's falling down.
I saw. I could look in, and I thought maybe they're opening.
Yeah. No, I was on some group on Facebook. I don't think it was one of the beer groups. Actually, it was one of the neighborhood groups, and they were talking about. They're like something happened at the Jeff Park station. There was some somebody got beat up or something like that, and they're like, "Oh,
classic Jeff Park
something." Somebody said something always happens at that corner with that liquor store across the street from CVS, and somebody was like, "Are you talking about Fischman's?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Fish," and I chimed in. I'm like, "Fischman's has been closed since 2016, and they're actually now located at Irving and Milwaukee, right next to the Portage Theater. Are you talking about was it LAS Liquors or whatever?"
Yeah,
They're like, "Oh yeah, that place is seedy." I'm like, "Well, yeah, and that's the only place that's open, so don't be blaming a business that's not there anymore."
Somebody had put a post. He checked in Friday. They were here, whatever, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the new Fischman's," and the guy's like, "Oh, I've been at both places numerous times." Like, what do you mean numerous times? You haven't been here yet. I've been going to the other place for many years. I'm like, we've only been open up like 9 months. I just want to comment on it. I'm like, yeah, you're confused. But but now you got to build a brand new community at a new place and rebuild.
Yeah. So what was kind of going through the process of? And I know there was a time where you weren't sure if you were going to do this again.
It was a grieving period.
Yeah, and I agree.
I should have stuck with the grieving period.
This is not an easy business to be in.
Right, before you get into that, I followed. It was great to see how much that you guys did do in between. You guys did a little bit of traveling, right? Did you take some time and do that?
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn the microphone back to me.
Okay.
So that she's gone.
We did some traveling. We got to enjoy, and it was funny because that made their post. I was like, all right, we decided that once we close, we're going to take a road trip, enjoy some time with the family, and be gone. But then once we got back, it was like, all right, we need to get working on things.
Got to do something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So was it like? And I know, I think even before that, when you guys, I remember we had this conversation. I don't know if it was at the employee party that I got invited to or whatever, but at the end, I know you were just like, we don't know, whatever, we're just going to play it by ear. Was it that road trip that you decided that, all right, we are definitely going to do this again? Or did you know ahead of time that you had it?
No, we announced it at the party. We took the road trip after that.
That's
party.
right. Okay, so
you had said that you guys were going to move forward.
That was the announcement that we brought it back out. That we were
so was this the location you knew of?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh wow! So you guys knew that right away that this is the place you were at, or not right away, but this was the spot you were looking at.
June, middle of June-ish. It was around June, middle of June.
So you'd already started shopping around. What are we?
Yeah, we started looking and stuff and trying to find the right spot. I mean, and again, that's the issue. You got to find the right spot. You don't realize how cool the other spot was because it was just in this right spot.
Yeah.
So
I originally,
corner spots are awesome, and like you had a bank next to you, but that was pretty much a corner bar almost.
Well, I remember.
I think the bank helped people find us. I think.
Yeah.
You see this big bank, and then you seen like Fischman.
Yeah, because people would go get their money out and be like, I'm gonna go to a bar.
Now I know the plan is for Lake Effect to move into the old
Firehouse.
firehouse over there. I thought that would have been a cool place for you
We
guys
looked
to
at
move
that place.
into.
Yeah, we did. I didn't
That would've been
realize
super
what
cool.
a crap hole that place was.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
well, Clint's putting in the work on that one.
Because I
4
remember,
feet of water in the
Yeah.
basement.
That's what he told me. I was like, whoa.
because I remember like when we first announced the closing, and then like I'd come to the bar, and like people still like knew that I I knew you guys and like helped out, and they were like, what are they gonna do? I was like, I don't know, like I don't ask, and like whatever. And John Arena had actually come into the bar, and I was sitting there talking to him, and I remember him saying, he's like, do you think they'd be interested in the old firehouse? And like, I said, first of all, a firehouse would be awesome, only if you leave the fire pole in there.
Yeah.
And I said, second, that thing has not been opened in God knows how long. I said, but it's an option.
Well, that place was like treated like a bachelor plant.
Well, exactly.
Between Street Sign and the fire department, no one took care of that building.
Exactly. So, I mean, I knew like as awesome that would be, but like it's not reasonable for just like a bar. Like it just really doesn't make sense. So, when you guys talked about this place, I remember like I drove by before you'd have even like moved in or done anything. I remember looking, I was like, man, if that theater comes to life, I mean, they still do stuff there, but if that they overhaul that place eventually, oh man, this is gonna be awesome. This is a great place to have, and you got like community on the other side, like and it's
Which I love community. I'm going to throw that out there.
yeah. So I mean, but that's the thing. It's like it's
Another
two different.
sponsor.
It's two different things. It's like community has their niche. They have like a specialty type menu, and like this is like really good food. Like, but it's more suited for like you can sit at the bar and eat this and not expect like a fancy meal type thing. It's like, I mean, I come around. I mean, 90% of the time I get wings, but like
That's true.
the food here is
We do come here to get
amazing.
wings.
Well,
Both of
wings
us.
and cheese curds.
Yeah.
So like it's awesome, and like
Trying to kill ourselves.
but this was like stuff that we talked about like at the old location. I remember when they were talking about you guys were expanding into the next place, you want to do a restaurant, and like Shanna was like, oh, we want to do burgers and wings and just like really good like upscale bar food. And I'm like, it's awesome that vision kind of played over into this.
Yeah.
In such a phenomenal location.
Yeah, you guys went from people who don't know the original spot. The actual bar itself, I always thought was kind of comical.
Oh, yeah.
From how long it was, and just like it looks like a giant rectangle, and there was plenty of space for
Inside.
bartenders to move on the inside,
Not for the customer.
not
Yeah.
for the customers, but it never really seemed to piss anybody off. And then here, you guys made a miniature version of that with more space. Thank you for that. And then now you've got the restaurant side as well.
Well, and some people say, when we opened up, and they're like, "Ooh, I like the old place." I'm like, again, Old Fish is original, and you can't redo original.
What do you do? Yeah. What,
And
and why would you want to do that?
Yeah, like you got to build in modern times. You got to build. We tried to bring some of the things like walking the old Fischman's. There was a big, huge bar, and then very at the end of the back there was our bathrooms. And the
Right.
same thing. You walk in, you see a bar presence. Again, bathrooms
There's
are behind the
bathrooms,
bar.
right.
So it was just like that kind of little thing that you can
Much
sit-
better bathrooms, I must say.
Of course.
100%.
Handicap accessible.
But yeah, it was like, that was remind me of what was the old Fischman's like. Yeah, and we have the other side. The addition is a sit down side, for accommodating to families and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I remember when the old place, we had talked about this. Did you take the old bar out?
No, I left it.
Oh, okay, because I remember originally there was
I wanted
talk
to
that
take
you
it.
wanted to take it and like use it again, but like it's just so awkward.
Yeah, a couple of things was like after I started talking to, Nick Segura, who built the bar. It was like, well, trying to save it might end up costing us more money, and then it's like, do you want a bit of a more newer identity? And then my uncle was fighting me tooth and nail, so I didn't take it. I'm like, what are you going to do with it anyways? So that bar eventually will probably end up in a...
So you're saying I can go in there, break in, take the bar, put it into my basement?
Yeah, you can.
You got Fishman's 2.0 coming to Tony's
Do
basement.
you still have the keys?
No keys. Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
you can.
So how do you? And this is a super general question. And maybe I'm overshooting. I'm just thinking here as we're drinking. What did you bring, Brandon? I just want to throw that out there because
The Revival Pipeworks.
feeling pretty good after drinking some of this.
It's a 2015 Revival.
Overall, how do you feel about the new spot, the change, going from? I mean, that was where you were over in which has been the debated thing. Is that still Jeff Park? I know, which I just learned. That I didn't know if that was Jeff Park.
Well,
I'm calling it.
Technically, the way that it's like drawn out, technically Old Fish was still basically part of Portage.
Portage. Yeah. Well, see, and my thought is that is. I feel like once you pass Wilson Park, that's Jefferson Park.
Yeah.
Jefferson, I even consider Wilson Park a part of it, but like I feel like you where you live, Brandon, that's
Portage Park.
Now people know you are Portage Park.
Yeah.
And I just felt like that was Jefferson Park. But anyways, going from that location in Portage Park, where I'm calling Jeff Park, to here, how's that transition been?
It's weird because people don't really call this like Portage. You call it Six Corners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I literally, when I was a kid, I lived right over there on Belle Point. That was my first apartment with my family from second grade on, and then when I
remember,
I moved. What? I moved.
I've been there.
Over. I know. I moved over to Cullum, so that's just a little further down over by Fanny's.
Cullum.
Cullum, you knew, yeah.
Yeah, Cullum.
Belle Plaine right here. I grew up there for a little bit, like, you know.
No, Cullum. Yeah, Cullum's correct because I remember I was taking a walk like last summer and I was like, I think this is Tony's old apartment.
Yeah. So I lived in this area. So yes, it's always been.
I don't even know where you live exactly.
Why don't we?
I thought you lived more in Gladstone for some reason.
What's your address, Brandon?
You live in Gladstone, right?
No, I live around Austin. I live on Austin and Addison.
No, you're not that far. Okay.
I'm editing that out.
Okay.
Anyway, so I
live by Wilson Park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know what it is,
No.
Ronnie? Yeah, it's Gladstone.
Yeah, he's in Gladstone.
Yes, he is in Gladstone. Now we all know where everybody lives. So, yeah, this now being over here. That's the longest fucking question I've ever asked.
And it was supposed to be just a general question.
General question. Then I talked about where I live, where Brandon lives, where
Nobody
Ron
asked me where I
lives.
live.
I don't care where you live, Gus.
That's good.
I know where
You
you
live here.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
That's why he's got a bed in the back.
Food time.
Shut
food time.
up.
You just downgraded yourself. I said you had a bed. All right, he's got a food time.
It'd be creepy having a bed.
Sorry, guys. It'd
be creepier if you had bunk beds.
I'm in my work bed.
Yeah. It's a change, man.
Yeah.
It really is a big change. You know, especially with the time period of being closed.
Sure.
You know, like you said, where people go. You know, people that develop new habits. People develop different friendships. People develop a new watering hole.
Yeah.
You know, so like when I first opened the bottle shop, it took a while for people to get used to me being open again. And it's, because people were like, oh, I'm driving, and they pass a different store that they start, going to or whatever. And, again, when you came to the Old Fish, it was, you knew the employees, you knew the staff, you built friendships. And, when you go to another place, I don't know, hopefully it would be, you build new friendships. And that's what it is, because there's loyalty. And then it's like how you got to, draw them back to come to Fischman.
Sure.
And that took a while, with the bottle shop being here, because again, it's in a different area, a different way, people's traffic routes, taking ways home.
Yeah.
I said, the old Fischman's was a lot. You don't realize the convenience of
hyper convenient.
Yeah. The Jeff Park Blue Line station right there.
Right there.
And the Metro right there.
But even if you drove, you got right off the expressway.
Yeah.
You could have pulled in. I used to tell people, if you're on the 90 driving, it's easier to get the Fischman than it was to Hopleaf if you got off the highway. Easier to get the Fischman's than to local option, because you got to get so far east in traffic. So Fischman was great place. Here now you almost have to detour around.
Depends on where, I mean, you could get off at Irving. Irving's okay.
Yeah,
I mean, Irving's
Irving
good.
is good, but
Irving's
Montrose, whatever. But it just changes your route patterns.
What the hell, Montrose? Why don't you have an exit over here?
They do.
I mean, they do, but it's not as good.
Only if you're going westbound.
Exactly.
But then you get the bar, and
business.
then you get the restaurant open, which is great. But again, you're bringing a different kind of clientele now with food, families. And saying the same thing for customer base for the store, same thing for the bar. You're all of a sudden you're I'm going to this little bar. It becomes more convenient. Oh well, it seems like it's inconvenient for me to go to the new place. So you got to no matter what, you have to rebuild.
Yeah.
And I look at it like today, like Old Fish was a destination, right? Not and it was exciting and it was unique and it had all the bells and whistles and funny things to it. But we drew people. We drew people from here. We drew people from like South Logan Square. And then people came in. I remember people coming from Crystal Lake every tap this.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Get on the metro. You know what I mean? But like today, it's hard to make that. It's somewhat hard to make that destination because why? You got let's say for example Logan Square, what is with Mars claiming to open a new one. What is going to be the 25th brew pub opening in Logan Square? I mean. So what would be
Logan Square's the destination apparently.
Yeah. So what would be the reason anybody would want to, if you live there, why would you leave there?
Yeah.
Your Uber ride from one brew pub to the next is going to be like $3.
Sure.
So that becomes the what do you call them? The word
Conundrum.
Well, just to get people, how you going to get these? It's hard. You're not going to.
Sure.
It's going to. So you got to reevaluate to bring other people in and get them excited, tap lists and food and other things, But again, with 7,500 breweries in America, Chicago being number one in the country, how many brew pubs, you're fighting with, this battle, so,
like in between like a bar as a destination and a brew pub as a destination.
And personally, I'd rather, nothing against brew pubs, but personally, I'd rather be in a bar because I'm going to have a variety,
the variety of stuff.
And
you're back. Hi.
Hi. Sorry, someone has to work in this place.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with just a brew pub, I mean, a few things like yes, it's you go to them, but if they're just all IPAs, a few things here and here.
Sure.
That's all you're gonna drink. But now that they changed the laws a little bit, where they can bring guest handles and they can do this, I think that becomes harder on us. And
I'm not 100%. I feel like I'm on the fence about the guest handles. That seems weird as a brew pub to have a guest handle. I feel like that's more of a bar thing. Like I love going to a brew pub. Like the first beer we had today was Maplewood. I finally went there for the first time maybe a couple months ago. Liked it. It was great.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back.
But you're going there to drink Maplewood beer.
Exactly. Specifically,
Right.
I come here because I'm going to try a whole bunch of other shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
And my kid loves the fish sandwich.
And with the bars, that's where our game comes in. Is that we carry and we support breweries, and so if we have your Maplewood handle and your microphone handle and your and we're supporting these breweries, and this is where we make that impact to grow your brand. Otherwise, why should we support them?
Right.
Like if because we're selling your beer, but in the same sense, when we want to support you, we want to grow with you, we want to make you successful, but in the same sense is you're almost like having a battle a little bit with
Sure.
with this, and I know the backlash between some restaurant owners, thinking with the new law changing and stuff like that, and and on top of it, where these breweries are bringing in is like bringing an out of town distro brewery, and all of a sudden that brew pub has that brewery, but nobody else is really going to be getting it or whatever, or these collaborations that are over exaggerated on stuff. So, so that becomes the hard part of where people are excited about beer.
Yeah. Man, I feel like we can have a whole long conversation about that.
Oh yeah,
for another episode.
Yeah.
we can have a podcast every other day.
Gus apparently has a lot to say.
I love it.
Raging Gus here.
And
this session's called Raging Gus.
And my one big question was so kind of tying this back to the old place and to the new place is one of the big events that happened there was the Kegs for Kidneys. Mm-hmm. Has there been any thought about bringing that back, and in what capacity, and how can you do that, and where would you do that?
Oh yeah.
And Shanna's here, so I figured it was a great time to ask that question.
Well,
Brandon's like CNN.
It's a good question, and we still want to do the support for that, of course. Keg for Kidneys was a beer event. Now again, here we are. How many beer events happen in the city of Chicago?
Yeah.
It's almost like every weekend, especially.
Some of them are not even worth it. I'm sorry.
Of course,
right
but it becomes.
I agree.
But again, it's like
so
when you have beer events, and at the time when you're doing it, is because you want to introduce beer to people, events and where it's at, and then once it gets to that point of oversaturating the beer events, it's you're competing against. I mean, whereas like Dark Lord, or it's a big beer event, costs money, or Half Acre Big Hugs releases, and you get all these big releases coming here. Smells like Bean Fast, and
Well, I think one of the things that we've got to remember is that when we started Kegs for Kidneys, it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because our niece is 11
Yes.
now. So
Oh, wow.
when we started Kegs for Kidneys, it was about 10 years ago, and that's when a lot of these new breweries were just coming out.
Yep.
Lake Effect, Microphone.
That's when I met the guys from Ailman, I feel like was.
Yes.
Was that Kegs for Kidneys thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
He
Yeah.
had bottles.
Yeah.
He was pouring bottles.
I have a tote bag that I still use.
But
with the
like,
Ailman logo on it.
we really want to bring it back. We have the idea for it and the spot for it, and but with the old location having that beautiful parking lot was just made it easier to do things. Now we would have to use the side street. We almost have to accommodate to like almost building out a fest.
Yeah.
And the cost of that is what's going to be the decision. To
How
it.
do you do it?
Yeah, because again, like we're gonna do an event, and then we have to put the cost and plus the other stuff. We used to charge $40 there. It might be higher, and then it's like, well, I don't want to spend $75 for your event, even though it's for a good cause. And again, like people just might not be interested. So it's a gamble that it's hard to take, especially when you're just open and not a year in the restaurant, and you already have all those costs going in there. So Keg for Guineas is something that's on the table. Will it happen this year? Probably, definitely not. So we'll see how it comes in next
Well,
year.
I don't know.
Dun dun
I
dun!
mean, we're going to be celebrating our 1-year anniversary soon, so I want to, do a big party for that. And I was thinking about maybe tying in
Look at that.
a Kegs for Kidneys,
Micro
something.
something.
Yeah.
Well, it could be like a mini
That's a good
event,
idea.
Yeah.
Starts-
Yeah.
I see, but I understand what you're saying about actually going back to the actual big
Yeah.
event, which was something that I also definitely.
And honestly, it was like when we first started Keg for Guineas, it was great. It was almost like the first beer fest kickoff to the summer.
It really was.
And
you
people,
guys did it. It's like late May.
End of May.
early
It was
June.
right
was
after
like-
Memorial Day
yeah.
weekend.
It was
yeah.
in Atlanta, usually right after the end of craft beer week.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was so much
So
fun.
so then it was like, oh great, we came in with this, and it was like, all right, it was like the kickoff, like Craft Beer Week happened, and then the kickoff for this, and it was
Did
like,
you guys do it? Sorry to cut you off. Did you guys do it on a Friday night too? Like,
well, we did it
remember one
Saturday.
being-
It was
was it
Saturday, but we
Saturday?
did something on a Friday, and then we tried to incorporate all 3 days.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. 'Cause There was
Yes.
one where I went. I actually had my buddy Paul come meet me because Mike and I were already there, and I was like, "This is amazing!" And I walked all the way back to my condo.
And the fun part of that beer fest was that, just everybody was comfortable. You had, you didn't stand in lines and wait for beer.
Other breweries are pouring.
Other
each other's
breweries were
beers.
pouring each other's
Yeah.
beers. The brand reps were drinking with the people that were there, for the event. Before you know it, everybody was drunk and had such a great time.
I think that was the first time I ran into Jesse from Mambique and
Yeah.
Goose Island
Yeah.
after many years. I knew him from. I was in grade school.
Yeah, but it was a good time, and it's not like one of those like typical beer fest events. And this guy's in a 10 by 10 tent, and then another one's in a 10 by 10 tent, and it's so corporate world of it. This was just like a big happy family.
It was one giant tent.
Yeah, one giant
It was
tent,
awesome.
and you had all these jockey boxes, and you have all these handles, and everybody was having a great time. And before you know it, but we never ended at the time we were supposed to end it because we just said let's just hang out and drink, and everybody's still, midnight comes around, and we're still out
We
there.
should probably start shutting it down.
Yeah.
One of the great things also about getting in this business at the time we did was the relationships that we were able to build with the breweries. So even being closed for 2 years, the breweries would contact us like, when the hell are you guys opening? Like, we have this and this at the distributor waiting for you guys.
That's awesome.
And some of them will ask us even now, like, when are you guys doing Kegs for Kidneys? Like, we've got something for you. So it's great to have been able to build that relationship with so many of these people and know that if and when the time comes to do an event like this again, that we know they've got our back.
Yeah, you guys got that support
Yeah.
already. That's super cool.
For
It's
sure.
important, yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I forgot that you guys are coming up on a year, so I'm expecting a big celebration. Throw that there right now. Well, I'll stop coming here.
Free beer.
I'm not gonna stop. But that's awesome. That's cool to throw in something with Kegs and Kidneys as well.
I think so.
Yeah, so honestly, I think like this has been awesome, and I kind of want to pause right here because there's
gonna
more.
cry again?
No, there's more. There's
Was
more.
he crying? I missed
kidding.
Randy crying.
He was getting teary-eyed.
He was got.
I was talking about the closing of the old place and how it made me upset.
Dick, and that sounded like a dick thing.
Oh, that's
it was
so
very
cute.
sweet. It was very sweet. He did get teary-eyed when he was talking about the closing because Fischman's is a big. I mean, it's a big part of my life. I did mention how my grandfather used to work, and we got caught stealing beer many years ago. And Brandon and I actually reconnected because of Fischman's. We went to high school together. We kind of fell off contact, and then
I remember that night.
we were there.
Fischman's brought people back together.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like this is a good, we can cut it off here because I feel like I have more questions and we can definitely pick this up again in another episode.
We're doing a part one.
Yes.
Is this part one and part two.
This is gonna be a part
Yeah.
Part two.
Yes.
Part one of like maybe 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, we're gonna come here again on a Sunday.
Let's do it on phase 3 releases. Fine.
Well, anyways, both of you guys, thank you so much for letting us come in here and
Thanks
talk.
for coming in, guys.
Of course, it's awesome, and good call. We'll pick this up soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
We gotta get you out. We gotta figure out when you're not on baby duty. We get you out of
Sundays
baby
apparently
You
work.
said duty.
duty.
Bull's ass.
Catch a popsicle.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll see you guys soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Music for this episode was provided by Fluid Minds. You can find their music on Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere music is streaming. You can also check them out at fluidmindsmusic.com. Thanks everyone for listening. We look forward to next week as it is our 10th episode. We made it. Cheers.